Hey guys, it's Mr. Sheeling here. I wanted to put up a video to better help you guys out in case there's still some misunderstanding between frequency and period, or this can also be a video that you can use in order to really see what the difference is using an actual prop here. To see what that difference is between frequency and period. So what I have set up here is I have a timer set up here. I have my lovely little rotating table I'm going to be using in order to show you guys, just visually what that difference is between frequency and also period. Okay, so I've been talking about how, frequency is the revolutions per second. Okay, it's the number of times that we complete a full circle, or the amount of a full circle that reaches a full rotation per however many seconds. Okay, so that's what I've been talking about. But what does that look like? So this is what I want to show you guys. Specifically what that looks like. So on my rotating table here, I've got my little marker. So it's to say this. So let's say that this is like a carousel, and you're on a carousel all the way out here. Okay, and the carousel starts at like a resting position, like somewhere about right here. Okay, it starts at a resting position right here. So this arrow is where we start. Okay, so in this spot does not change because this is where we started. Okay, and frequency would be saying that, okay, there's one revolution. As soon as my little red marker hits this guy right here, that's one revolution. There's two revolutions. 3, 4, okay, 5. So those are my revolutions, and in order to find out frequency, we would time this to see just how many revolutions happened for every second. So let's just give that a try. In a real world sense, let's actually see, trying to maintain a constant velocity in the circle, whatever I set it to, let's determine what the frequency is. So again, I'm still going to start here, and I'm going to start my timer. At the same time, I'm going to move this, and we're going to just see, the number of revolutions over time, and so we can calculate what our frequency would be in this case. So, okay, let's give this a go. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll stop it right at 5. Okay. So roughly speaking, and this is pretty crude, obviously, but roughly speaking, it took us about 10 seconds to go to complete 5 revolutions. So if we wanted to calculate the frequency of that, well, we did, again, that was 5 revolutions. We had 5 revolutions, and it took us roughly about 10.7 seconds in order to complete 5 revolutions. So if we want to know the frequency that I was moving this card at, okay, my little rotating table, all it would be 5 over 10.7, because it's revolutions over seconds. And roughly speaking, it would be somewhere about half. Okay, so it would be 5 divided by 10.7, and I get this. I get roughly, my frequency would equal somewhere about 0.47 revolutions per second. Or another way we can say that would be this. It would be frequency is equal to roughly about 0.47 hertz. Okay, same difference. So that's what frequency is. It's the number of times that a circle moves around from its point where it starts and then reaches the point where it starts. And we time that to see how quick that was in that one revolution, and that's its frequency. And think of it this way. I mean, frequency, when you hear the word frequency, don't be spooked about it in the science sense. If you were to go up to anybody, if you were to say, hey, what's the frequency of you doing X, Y, and Z? Hey, it's the same thing as asking, well, how often do you do this thing? How often do you go to the gym? How often do you watch TV? How often do you do this or that? It's really actually no different. You're asking them, well, what's the number of times you do this thing over this amount of time? So, for instance, it's how much TV do you watch in a day? How much time do you spend on your phone over a week? that's frequency. It's the same thing. It's just how often do you do that thing over time. Okay, in this case, it's just the number of times that we complete a circle, okay, the number of revolutions per every second. So that's frequency. Now let's take a look here at period. Okay, now period is just remember I talked about the reciprocal units here. Period is literally just the opposite. So period is how much time does it take to complete one revolution. Okay, now, and we mentioned this in the notes that typically, if we've got something that moves super, super, super fast, we have a whole lot of revolutions in a small amount of time, that's where we use frequency. Period is usually something that's a little slower. So a good example of a real-world example that is where we use period would be, say, we would say like how long it takes for the Earth to rotate on its axis to make a complete circle, which we all know is 24 hours. Okay, which would translate into 30. It would translate into, actually, if we were to have it in period, it would be 3,600, or actually, yeah, 3,600. Oh my goodness, 24 times, no, 3,600, because that's so we would say or no, that's not right. My goodness, 24. No, that is right. Sorry, it would be 3,600 because there's 3,600 seconds in 1 hour times 24. So there would be 86,400 seconds in one revolution of the Earth. Okay, so that's that, and we use period because it's so, relatively speaking, so slow. Okay, we don't have a whole lot of revolutions over a big old span of time. Now, period though, is again used typically for slower things. So we would calculate it though more or less the same. Okay, so I've got my timer here, and I'm going to go roughly about the same speed that I did last time. Okay, and I'm going to do what I did last time. I'm going to try to start my timer, and I'm going to try to start moving this at the same time, roughly about the same velocity. So let's give this a go. So 3, 2, 1, go. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Okay, actually not too bad. We had roughly about the same time, and that was literally just me trying my best to match that velocity. So we got, in this case, we actually got, let me grab another piece of paper. In this case, it looks like it took us 10.6 seconds, and we made, in that time, we made 5 revolutions. Okay, so we made 5 revolutions in those 10.6 seconds. So if we were to calculate the period of this whole ordeal, we would say this. Our period would be this. It would be the amount of time over revolution. So it would be 10.6 seconds over 5 revolutions. And if we pop that into our calculator, 10.6 divided by 5, that roughly gives us about 12, or 2.12, again, seconds for every revolution. So what this is saying is that our period is this, that it takes, roughly speaking, about 2.12 seconds in order for us to make our way all the way from this position all the way back to that same position, a full circle. Okay, a full 360 degrees. Okay, so that is the difference between period and frequency. Do we care about how much time it takes in order to go from here to back to here, clockwise or counterclockwise? Or with frequency, is it how many revolutions we can get within a particular time period? In this case, seconds. So that's the difference between the difference between period and frequency. Okay, and also, since I made the comparison, that period that frequency is, comparing it to language you already use. Period would be like you going to class. It's the same thing. So we call them periods because it's a particular class, it's a particular amount of time per one class. So when you think about it, that's when we say 5th period, we say 6th period, 1st period. and what that basically translates into actually is we're saying, well, first period is defined by you being in class for 46 seconds per that class, okay? And then same thing, and then if you think about it, you'd say like, well, okay, well, actually, I won't make that comparison. But anyway, it's like the same use of language here. So there's nothing terribly spooky about the language when it comes to the physics side of period to the period that you're already used to, okay? So again, that is the difference between period and frequency. If you found this video super helpful, guys, I'm awesome. If you still have any other questions, if you want more help when it comes to knowing when to use frequency, when to use period, when is it, or how do I know which one's which, please let me know. Hopefully this was good enough, but again, maybe it's not. Let me know if you need that extra help, okay? Other than that, guys, that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.